All right, awesome. I always say that ProPublica has one of the better audience engagement strategies of any of the other news outlets in the industry. So next, and our last kind of solo speaker for today is going to be Dexter Mullins. Dexter is a senior editor at NowThis. I'm sure you guys have seen NowThis content come across your Facebook or Twitter feeds at some point in time. But basically what they are is they are a social first storytelling organization. And Dexter runs a team of I don't know how many, but they handle a lot of the content that goes out on those different feeds. Before that, Dexter was at CBS, helping, I believe, launch their digital first news channel. So I'm going to let Dexter talk, and he's going to talk about optimizing content specifically for social media platforms. So I know a lot of you may work on different social media desks throughout the industry. I'm sure this is going to be mad helpful to you. All right.
Thanks, John. Just before I start, really quickly, because I'll forget, I have set up some free stickers in the front desk, which if you scan them, will take you to our Snapchat page. They just won a big DigiDay award for their partnership piece over the election called We the People. We partner with CIR to do reporting on the election. So check it out, and then also plaster them all over campus if you're students so we can get more Snapchat followers. And then also, just a quick show of hands, anyone here who works newspapers? Some majority of the folks. Anybody video folks? Social folks anywhere? Just me and you? Oh, okay, a few in the back. And then how many students, just so I can get a, okay. So it's a good even run. Oh, I'm so sorry. Gum, that's so rude. As John said, my name is Dexter Mullins. I'm the senior editorial producer for the news team at NowThis. Prior to NowThis, I was at CBSN. I helped launch CBSN. Before that, I was the only African-American digital reporter at Al Jazeera America, so I was literally the only one they had. So I covered all the black stories. Surprise, surprise. And I was at the Wall Street Journal as their multimedia producer for video, and I started off at NBC Nightly News when Brian Williams was still the anchor. So if you want to talk about Brian Williams after this, I have all kinds of fun stories. But we're going to talk about generating or creating video for social media. So just a little bit about NowThis. Our scale is massive. We average, and this actually is just from last month, this is actually already outdated. We average now about 2.5 billion monthly views on Facebook, and that's not just like someone saw it and scrolled past it. People actually stopping, watching the videos, seeing them through past like 5 seconds. That's including like all of our verticals, the main page I oversee, the politics page, entertainment page, the weed page, the booze page, you name it. So across all our verticals, 2.4 billion. On the news page, just like core news of the day, down the middle, nonpartisan, just news, we have about a billion to $1.5 billion views a month. So most of this is just people just wanting to see what's going on. And I think what makes that so easy is if you have to think about when you're out and about, where do you consume your news? Your phone, right? So it's always in your pocket. It's here. It's readily available. You get a push alert. You can look at it. It's easy. So we opted rather than go. We used to have a website, and we got rid of it because we said, look, websites and homepages are great, but for our audience, I think that just does not work. We want to take the news where people are. So we took the news straight to mobile and straight to social because that's where our audience is. And that was a bet that we made before anybody else did, and it paid off enormously. We now have a lot of copycats. Mike in particular will copy a video we'll do within hours, which I find kind of hilarious. But it is what it is. So just a bit about us, and then our audience, 75% of them are under the age of 35. So these are people who mobile news and social news is their first place. They're not going to think to go to a New York Times or a ProPublica, much as I love ProPublica, I do. Or other places like that. They are going to go to Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or wherever. So we are bringing legitimate news to where our audience is, as opposed to trying to bring them where they are not natively going to be. And as you see there, 85% of them are also on mobile. So that is where that's our bread and butter. We are the #1 social news publisher across social news, and we're hoping to keep it that way. And as we continue to grow, that's what we are working towards. So how do you make good social video? So the first thing I tell all my producers, anyone that's interviewing for jobs, anyone that asks me questions about social video is you're not making videos for social. You're telling stories for and about people. They just so happen to be on a social platform. I think people, and in particular, like some folks that work at legacy organizations are like, oh, we're gonna put our stories on Facebook and it'll bring them to the homepage. That's not how this works. And you shouldn't think about social media as just another avenue to drive people back back to your original platform, social news is its own thing. So if people want to read your deep dive investigative piece, they will go to that. And you can certainly use social to promote it and use it as a call out, but you shouldn't expect them to click on it and then engage with your other piece and then troll through the whole website and find other things. That's just not what they're gonna do. They're gonna see the story, read the story, watch it, whatever, and move on with their day. So thinking of social as a way to redirect folks back to the original thing, we think is not the best way. You should think about social media and social news as its own independent area, and you should be tailoring your content, so to speak, towards the platform that you are publishing on. The second thing I tell people is that, and this is something I say in the newsroom every single day, it is just good old-fashioned reporting. The median age in my newsroom is probably like 25. So as a not even 30-year-old, I am like one of the old guys, which is hilarious. And I have to constantly remind our producers, listen, I know that you love to just look on Facebook and send people emails. Pick up your phone. Call someone. Behind every Facebook page or every Twitter account, there is a person. And a person has a phone, they have an email address, they have an address. If they live in New York City, go get on the train. We're not doing anything today. Our job is to tell the news. If this is your story, why are you still in the office? Go. And I think for younger journalists in particular who are now thinking social first, sometimes having to remind them that like actually going and doing the reporting is part of the job, is like eye-opening to them. And they get better stories that way, because obviously sitting behind your desk all day is not as effective as going to where the thing is. Like we had there was a story we did, oh gosh, this is right before the election. Do y'all remember the random statues of Donald Trump that popped up in like major cities? And like, oh, this cool thing is happening. Let's get pictures off. So I was like, no, go get a camera, get on the N train, and go up to Union Square Park, it's 3 stops away, and live stream it and ask people what they think. It's not rocket science. And that ended up being one of our most watched live streams of the month. It was like 7 million people tuned in from all over the world just to watch it. And we literally just had a reporter out there with his iPhone asking people on the street, hey, what do you think of this Trump statue? By the way, who are you voting for? Why? And that led to a ton of other content for us and other stories that we were able to produce prior to the election. So as simple as just getting up out of his desk and actually going to where the thing is. So good old-fashioned reporting. Also telling them, think of social media as a way not just to publish your stories, but as a way to connect with your audience, to verify things, and to research. Trust but verify, which is the tired old principle of old media news, but also new media news, and it will remain the same way. Just because it's on the internet doesn't make it true. And you should always trust but verify. So that's what we spend a lot of time doing throughout the day. And remember why people are watching your story on your platform in the first place. The reason we have so much success with videos on mobile is because we tailor our videos to be formatted and they work specifically on that particular platform. So like, I'm not gonna take, and this is something that I struggled to explain to people when I was working at CBS, and I said to them, you had such a great chance to do something different. We launched CBSN, and it just became cable on the internet. It was not different than MSNBC or Fox or CNN. It was exactly the same thing. And I said, we had such a great chance to do something different, and we just did what we already know how to do. And that didn't really benefit anybody. The reason people consume news on their phone is because it's convenient for them. They can pick what they want to watch or read or listen to or whatever. Or if, like for me, I get up in the morning, I'm going to work, I'm on the train for 30, 40 minutes. I don't want to just sit there and look at other people. That's not very exciting at 8 in the morning. I want to know what's going on. So I'll read, the New York Times Daily Download, the digest. I will scan through my email. I also will watch 2 or 3 videos from sources that are legitimate, so I know what's happening and I can take that information and go on with the rest of my day. So for me, I'll look at news all day because that's my job. But for people who don't do this on a regular basis, non-journalists, that is the conversation they have over their cup of coffee with their cubicle mate, or that's what they talk to with their friends when they go out for drinks after work. Did you see this thing? Did you hear about this? And they are now informed and they are a part of the conversation. So keep that in mind, why people are watching your content on your particular platform. So what do we look for? So we have 5 things, we call them 5 buckets that we check through. Does the story have great visuals? Because we are a video operation, it's gotta look good. It's gotta have something that you can actually want to look at and watch, and we'll see some examples shortly. Is it one of our core issues? And our core issues are things that our audience, through data, direct reporting, direct discussions, have told us they care about. The first category is things people should give a shit about. And that's just a general overall, like, hey, this is actually really important, and it might not be important to you right now, but it's gonna impact you in a year or 3 or 5, or it could change the way government works, or it could be anything about the Syrian refugees as far as international news, something as local as why the trains are always delayed. That is really important. You can fuss about it, but it's actually important, and you should really care because you're spending millions of dollars as a taxpayer annually to run this thing. So why don't you care about how it doesn't work? Equality, and that's all types of equality, whether it's gender equality, wage equality, LGBTQ equality, you name it. That's things that our audience cares about. Environmental protection, our audience is very, very tuned into environmental issues, whether they are climate change believers, deniers, somewhere in between. Environmental stories and issues are very important to our audience. Black Lives Matter is just something that our staff just believes in because it, again, goes back to the equality bit of it. Anything to do with guns is always very important. It's always a very hot button for our audience, and marijuana, because we're in the middle of, I think, personally, the beginning of a new booming industry in this country. As it moves from state to state, it's going to continue to be the top of everyone's tongue. So we have actually built a vertical just dedicated to covering all things weed. So if you have some time to check it out later, you totally should. NowThis weed, it's a lot of fun. And these will change as our audience changes and as important things change throughout the day. But this is those are our core issues. Is it relevant to our audience? Does it trigger any emotions when you watch it? Does it make you angry? Does it make you sad? Does it make you want to laugh? Does it make you want to go out and be involved? And is it interesting? Is it just something that's just really cool? And hey, you want to show this to your friends? Have they seen this thing? This is a really cool thing that we just saw. Let's see. This is the most important thing. Going viral is neither a goal nor a strategy. I say this till I'm blue in the face everywhere I go, and people are always like, oh man, you guys must have such a great viral operation. We do not care if our stories go viral or not. It's never the beginning, middle, or end result for us. It's always, is it a good story? What is it about? Who are the people? Do people care about it? Is it important? Those are the things that we care about. Does it impact our audience? Is it important? It will go viral on its own. We're not here to only make cat videos. If we wanted to do that, then we totally could do that, and we'd have a lot of videos, and we'd make a lot of money that way, but we're not a cat video operation. So we're a news company, and when I give this presentation, I've done this multiple times, someone always asks, how do you guys manage to go so viral? And I'm like, that's not important. Good stories will go viral on their own, especially if you have your content tailored to a platform that it lends itself to doing that. And it's one of the things you'll see in your Facebook feed. Our videos are always in everyone's feeds, and there's a variety of different types of videos. We're not putting those videos there. Your friends are putting them there. Your family are putting them there. Your coworkers, people that you have things in common with that see a video that we have done, and they think it's important enough to share or comment on or send to you. And so then you share it. And then maybe your sister shares it, and her cousin shares it, and then her friends share it. They go viral on their own, but they started with us reaching somebody that story impacted because it was important to them. So virality is not really something that we strive for. It just kind of happens on its own. Where do we find our stories? About 60% is aggregation. And when I say aggregation, I mean things like Storyful that we use to verify social media videos, Reuters subscriptions for videos. We can't obviously send a reporter. We're a small operation. We can't send someone to Syria right now. We're hoping to get to that point at some point. But in the meantime, we will rely on wire services like that, which every organization does, AP, Reuters, things like that. 30% original reporting. There's a little asterisk. I'll get back to that in a minute. And then the last 10% is audience feedback, press releases, and data. We have a very healthy data operation that we review pretty regularly to see kind of what's working and what's not. What stories have we not covered in a long time that were really, really important, or that, hey, we just didn't do this the best way, let's try this again. What stories are we always covering and maybe we're a little biased and we should focus on something else? Are we looking at this through just one lens and not another lens? Have we missed a perspective that's important? Is there a voice that we're missing in this dialogue that we could then incorporate into the same story or the same genre of stories? And we are constantly going back and tweaking and changing things because there's no one side to the news. Everyone will perceive it a different way, and the best way to reach your audience is to make sure that you're telling the story in a way that's honest and truthful and that will reach the most people, but also that welcomes and includes the most legitimate perspectives. If we just did things from our own perspective, we would be walling off huge chunks of people that would never want to watch our content. So we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into that. The 30% original reporting, the asterisk, and these are just my rough estimates. I don't have like specific numbers. But we, as a small group, again, can't afford to send people everywhere as much as we would like to. But what we do try to do when we see stories that are great and we say, hey, we have enough time to do this ourselves. You can't go fly and meet that person, but you can do a Skype with them. And you can call them, or you can, do an email exchange back and forth and set up an interview maybe down the road, or we can bring them in for a live stream or a studio produced piece where we can interview them in person. Just because we only work on social doesn't mean we also can't report. And so a lot of our stories, you'll see maybe the same video that everyone else has run with, but then we'll have something extra. We've actually taken the time to go out and find that person behind the video and spend like 2 hours. Hey, tell me about this. Spend a day with them. Spend a couple of days with them, whether it's in person or via remotely. And it can be as many as 1 interview or 5 interviews. We did one story that it took the producer maybe a month to do enough interviews to get enough footage and enough material to do it properly, but I was fine with that because it was a good story. And as we continue to grow, we are starting to send people out more places. We've launched original series. We had one reporter fly to the border wall. She actually grew up in Tijuana and had to cross the border to get to school in San Diego every single day. And that was a perspective that like no one had touched. It's like, hey, there actually already is a border wall, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it looks like for people on both sides of it. And this is someone who grew up living with this wall every single day. So we sent her out to Mexico to spend a month doing that. We have people going out to Russia, and we're going to continue to send more folks out as we continue to expand. Social video is not responsibility free, which I think everyone would agree with. Journalism ethics do not just change because you're only doing a story on Facebook or Snapchat. This mostly applies to the students. So as the last election will lead itself to a perfect example, there is so much fake news on Facebook, like so much. It makes my job really hard. Because we only publish on Facebook. So people are always like, oh, well, you guys are part of the fake news media. It's like, well, no, we're not. But I understand why you would think that, because all that is on Facebook right now is it's cluttered with all kinds of stuff. So we have a responsibility, because we have such a massive audience, to make sure that what we're doing is accurate and factual and correct. I tell our producers all the time they have to be even more diligent in their reporting because of the massive reach that we have. We publish one video at 10 o'clock in the morning. I can almost guarantee by the end of the day, at least 1 million people will have seen that video. I cannot say the same for any other type of content that I've ever, whether it's a written piece, a broadcast piece, you name it. I cannot guarantee that. I can almost guarantee that with certainty on every video we do because of the size of our audience. If I know for a fact that at least 1 million people will see something I've done within a day, that's 1 million people who are putting their trust in me that I am reporting something correctly, and it's got to be right. And when we make a mistake, we have to be able to quickly, willingly, and readily make and admit that mistake and fix it. Where a mistake is reported, it's got to be corrected the same way. It's the same way most places would run, and it's the same way on social. So that's the way we run our page. And as people begin to expand their social media coverage, I'd hope you would think the same way as well. If there are mistakes, which invariably will happen, it could be that a number has changed in a death count, or we could have spelled someone's name wrong, or we could have just totally missed something. You've got to make that same correction the same way you made the mistake. And then as you can see, bad social media reporting has real-world consequences. Not necessarily who's in the White House right now. I'll leave that to however your politics are. But I think the bigger consequence is, as we see all this fake news and all these garbage headlines and these non-realistic videos and reporting, it is making it harder for real journalists and real organizations to do their job, because people don't trust the media anymore. And I think it's a very dangerous place to be in, where there is not trust from the public in the media that is supposed to report to and serve them. And so that's something to keep in mind, is that these are legitimate, real consequences, and I think we're just beginning to see what's going to happen as a result of all the things that we've sort of seen proliferate online. Okay, so I have a couple of examples here. The motto we have in the office is that we tell stories that move. So our stories, and I have 4 or 5 examples, and I'll kind of go through each one of them, but we try to make sure our stories will have emotion. This is one. This video had 18 million views. We just published it just a little over a month ago. Let's see. I don't know if it's gonna actually cooperate. Let's see. It might not. Oh, that's too bad. This is a really good video. We do. So I'll answer all those specific questions towards the end. This is actually a really short slide presentation. This is too bad. I was hoping you guys could watch these videos. Let's see. I wonder if just the bandwidth is not strong enough to stream it. Maybe I'll try a different one. Stand by, technical challenges. But while we're fixing this, so yes, we do post natively to Facebook across all of our verticals. We have like a publishing strategy in terms of like times and optimization. I don't really deal with all of that. I just worry about the content and the editorial. I let the like data team handle like the best time for this video to go up on Facebook. It'll do better. There are some videos that will do better at certain times of the day. World news videos do amazing for us at 3 in the morning. I don't know why that is like on the US side. If you think about it, like the rest of the world is awake while we're asleep. So like that just like naturally makes sense. Other videos do well for like no reason at all. We'll do videos, I'm like, oh, that's not gonna do that great, but it's a fun story, and they'll do like 5 million views. And it's like, oh, that was a surprise. We did a video maybe 2 or 3 days ago. Gosh. It was Monday. It was a story of a coach, a basketball coach, who didn't have any hands, which is like, how do you coach basketball with no hands? And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. It'll do really well, but like, you know, whatever. It's just a cool, weird story. And it like just skyrocketed at 3 in the morning. Totally random, but it did its own thing. If it doesn't play, that's okay. I don't want to hold everybody up. That's fine, don't worry about it. So that's too bad, but maybe they'll load later. So the story was about a little boy who, and I'm sure you all have seen this story floating around. He is partially colorblind, so he can only see like red, brown, like very limited colors. So the world was very muted to him. And this had been pitched to us by this company like a million times, like, oh, it's just a PR company. They're just trying to get some free media for their like glasses. They probably don't even work. This is me being skeptical. They probably don't even work, and this is like a waste of our time. Why should we do it? And finally, we ended up getting in contact with this boy's family, and they were like, oh no, we bought these glasses for him, and they actually did work. And we got the video from them, and we did an interview with them remotely, and it just like the emotion, which you can't see, but he puts them on for the first time and sees the world in color, and you can see the emotion on his face. His whole world had just like been changed. And that is a story that our audience relates with because it's just a good story, and it makes you feel. You can immediately feel how big of a moment this is for that kid. You think about what it's like, you know, before he's able to and have not seen color. I mean, think about looking around this room right now and not being able to see all the color that is in the room. If you can only see things in like black, brown, and gray. So that was a huge moment for him. So that was a big story. This one is like my favorite. I hate that it won't play. Our stories are highly visual. Right now, they're just black screens with play buttons on them, but that's too bad. Okay. I don't think any of them are going to play. I'm not sure why, but we'll figure that out later. But basically, this story is a story that one of my producers, she makes it her business to find cool Instagram accounts and find the people behind the Instagram posts. So this guy called himself the King of Vape, and his Instagram account is about him making all these cool, crazy designs and shapes with the smoke he blows out of a vape pen, which is like the most insane thing ever. But it was just a really visual, cool story. And I remember the producer Scott was like, oh, I finally heard back from the Vape King guy. And I was like, who the hell is the Vape King? What are you talking about? And when I saw it, I was just like, oh, man, he literally made a squid in midair out of smoke. That was like, it was mind-blowing to me. And that was a story that was just really visual. So then not only was it a visual story, it was also like, okay, well, who is this guy? Why is he doing this? And like, let's learn more about him. And this exposed us to this whole underground culture of people who compete competitively around the world for making shapes out of smoke from vape pens. So we did a story about this guy and how he is the king of vape and how he went from state to state winning these challenges, making shapes out of smoke. That was just an amazing story. Our stories tackle social issues. This is a story about a lawyer in North Carolina who was driving Uber part-time, and a cop had pulled him over because he said the passenger he picked up left a house that had been reported to be a drug house. Neither the driver nor the passenger had anything on them. They were not arrested or charged with anything, but the officer tried to force the attorney, which he didn't know at the time he was an attorney, to turn off his cell phone. He said, there's a new law, you're not allowed to film the police, and if you don't turn your phone off, you're gonna go to jail. And the lawyer, very much holding his ground, saying, well, that's bullshit, I'm an attorney, and I've never heard of this new law that just passed yesterday, apparently. Can you tell me more about it? And on film, you see this cop, his squad partner, and 2 other officers who arrive on the scene, all lying to this man about this law that literally does not exist. So when he challenges him and says, well, I'm gonna arrest you, he says, well, you can't arrest me because there's no grounds. He says, well, get out of the car. You're under arrest, I'm gonna search your car. He says, well, no, I don't have to do that. You have no grounds to do that. He says, well, now I'm gonna search your car for drugs, and brings in the K9 unit to search his car, doesn't find anything. And then when the video posted, we actually got an email. We had to take it down and re-edit it because we actually got an email from the police department directly with the chief saying that not only does he disagree with what the cops did, but he encourages the public to record video, and these 2 officers were reprimanded. So that was an example of like a legitimate real world situation where the video had something positive come out of it, but also it's a massive social issue. I mean, policing and bad policing and all kinds of things around policing around this country is a very hot button issue. So those stories will always be important to us. But it's a big social issue, and this is just an example of what can happen when people have video. Our stories are universal. Everyone remembers this young man. This is Omran. He was pulled from an airstrike in Syria, and all you have to do is look at his face to know what he's going through. You don't have to contextualize it. You don't have to put any kind of spin on it. You don't have to explain it. You just say, this is a Syrian child. And you can look at him and see what he's going through. I hate that the videos will not play because this is a really good one. This one is actually a deep dive that one of my producers spent a couple of days on, just going through, because we can't send him to Syria. He went through all of our previous stories, our subscriptions, and said, okay, what is the common thread that we are always mentioning but not really telling? And it's like he would never tell the story from the kids' perspectives. And his video focused on the 3.5 million Syrian children who know nothing in the world but a world of war. And the whole video was just about the way these kids see the world and how they see it through their eyes. So we got in contact with a nonprofit group in Syria that we spent about a month vetting and making sure they were a legitimate organization and not like, you know, skewing one way or the other. And they put us in touch with some families to do some interviews with them directly. So that was a really great opportunity for us. And this just ended up being a really great video that we had the footage already, but then we found the kids behind this footage to talk to them. Let's see. And then this is another story. In line with our original reporting, we sent a reporter, the same reporter who had gone to Mexico to go to the border wall. She spent an additional couple of weeks reporting on why there are so many Haitian immigrants in Mexico. And it's this really weird thing where Haitian immigrants are trying to get to the US to seek asylum, and they oftentimes end up getting trapped in Mexico. And they're stuck in Tijuana, and they can't go back because they fled, but they can't go forward because the US won't take them. So they're stuck in a country they had no intentions of being in, where they don't speak the language, and they can't go back home. So this is a 3-minute video that we have on our YouTube page. It's a really great watch if you get time to watch it. It just posted a couple of weeks ago. But that's pretty much it. There was obviously more time built in for the videos, which did not play. Maybe one will pop up in a minute or two, but that is essentially it in terms of what we look for in terms of good stories, how we tell our stories, and what makes a good visual story. Sure, oh, yay, stand by. It's much better to do a video presentation about videos when you can watch the videos. Thank you. Da-da-da-da. So these aren't the ones that I was picking on, but any of these will work. Let's see. Actually, this is a good example. I can kind of just walk through this. So this is the news page. This is our main Facebook page. And as I said before, we have multiple verticals. So we have some tailored to politics. We have one that just launched recently, Now Her, which focuses specifically on women's equality, women's issues, anything that runs the gamut. We've had people come in to do like original reporting pieces. We've had people come in to do studio pieces, things of that nature. And I'm just trying to find, Dodo video. I'll talk about that in a second. So we actually partner with the Dodo as well. They are a part of our overall company. Let's see. All right, this one is not a super high performer, but it's just a really fun video. This is an example of like, it's just great video. So this girl was on a crane for no reason. And she got stuck up there. They don't know why she went up there or how she got up there, and they had to literally lower the crane and rescue her down. Oh. Ah. Okay, I'll start this one over. So I wasn't really into this, but my supervising producer was super into it. And I was like, all right, fine, we'll do it, fine. But you have to find a way to talk to this woman before I will sign off. She's like, all right, I will find her, I will make it happen. And she did. Don't know how, but she did. Okay. So this video has only been live for about 15 hours, and it's already got over 500,000 views. And again, that's not just someone that has scanned through, saw it, and kept rolling. They actually stopped to watch this video because, like, it's just good video. So this is one of our 5 things. Is it just good footage? Why the heck not? I don't know what she was doing up there. Kind of crazy, but an interesting thing. So in between like hard news stories of the day and depressing stories about like the way the world is falling apart, we throw in some fun things like that to kind of lighten the mood. And also like our audience is our newsroom. So if the newsroom is really into something, the chances our audience will also like it is pretty much the same because they're the same demographic. So we have a unique opportunity to kind of tell stories that we just find really cool, which is rare, I think. Is, you know, while we have to also do our responsibility of doing the stories that are important, we get to do things that are fun as well. And a lot of newsrooms don't always have that opportunity. So we enjoy it and find a way to work it in throughout the rest of the day. Let me see if I can find one more example. Oh, okay. This is an original piece from the Now Her team.
If I had $1 for every time a man told me, I wish I had your legs. I started lifting when I was 17. I used lifting weights basically as a replacement for drugs. But I'm also an addict, you know, it's either all or nothing. I can't just have one CrossFit class 3 times a week. I've got to go 7 days a week. Instead of women having to have the stigma of, oh, I'm a size large or I'm a size 2X, they look at an athlete and they're like, you know, oh, wow, I'm a size Heidi. Heidi's a Canadian arm wrestling champion. Damn, she whoops dudes' asses. We'll still be women. We can still be and put on lipstick and cuddle and scratch your back, but with 15-inch biceps. Get over it. Yeah.
So that's just an example of another fun story, but it's like it's not just a fun story, it's a profile piece. You see this woman, and I believe this is one of those situations where someone saw her picture on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere and like, oh man, I wish I could talk to her. I said, well, why don't you try to call her and reach out and see if we can get in touch with her? Maybe she'll talk to us and tell us why she's doing this amazing thing. So you go from finding a woman who is a bodybuilder to someone who has overcome a drug story and who is trying to use that to inspire other people. And there's always a story behind the story. So that's the way we try to look at social video. I only have like a minute left, so I guess I'll take questions. And I have cards up here if anybody would like a card. Yes. So I don't have the specific spreadsheet on how long people will last, but I generally, if we can get someone to stick with our video for 10 seconds, they'll watch the thing all the way through no matter what. So that's whether it's 40 seconds long, if it's a minute and a half long, if it's 5 minutes long. We've done some really lengthy deep dives into some of the Trump administration. There's a good piece on Mr. Bannon, which I'll try to find while I'm answering your question, that is actually a 3-part series narrated by a very prominent Hollywood person. That just had crazy engagement. But we don't try to tailor our videos to any particular length. The length is determined by the story. So if the story needs 30 seconds, you give it 30 seconds. If it needs 5 minutes, well, let's talk about it and make sure it needs 5 minutes, and then we'll give it 5 minutes. If it needs somewhere in between, we'll do that. Facebook is, because we only publish on Facebook, we are sort of beholden to them. And when they change their algorithm in terms of what they want, our video view counts will adjust, but we don't really try to worry about it too much. If it's a good video, it's a good video. And we try to fluctuate it that way. Yes, so we have a variety of different ways we do videos. Some videos are cut 16:9, which is horizontal, the way you normally would see them. Sometimes we cut them square. That's just because it's easier to watch it on your phone that way. Because the majority of our content is consumed on the phone. A 16:9 video, if you hold your phone, portrait mode, it looks really small. You got to rotate it, and then if you cut it square, it's the same shape no matter how you hold it. So you don't have to, as a consumer, make any adjustments to consume the content. So it's easier for you, the watcher, to watch the video. So we don't do any reporter track. So all our videos are text on screen. But speaking of audience, something that actually I touched on a couple months ago when I did the class, 80% of our audience does not watch the video with sound. They will just watch it with text on screen, and they'll just keep rolling. So you'd be like, oh, well, we spend so much time on finding the right music and making sure the shots are balanced. Like, well, why do that if the majority of the audience is not watching with sound? If a video has 10 million views, which is not uncommon, while 8 million people have watched it without sound, that's still 2 million people that want to hear the sound. So the sound is still just as important to us, and we try to make sure that it's balanced that way. Mm-hmm. Right. So we actually don't have a website. So we just did away with it completely because we just strongly believe that using social to push to something else is just not the right way to do it. And if people are going to watch your content on social, they're there for a reason and they want that experience. So to try to take them somewhere else is almost disingenuous. So we only publish on Facebook. In terms of monetization, we still make money the same way everyone else does with branded content and sponsored sales. So we have a separate team that handles all of that. They literally work on the opposite side of the floor in their own totally separate office. So a very rigid separation between the editorial team and the sales team. They're almost a block away. It's the complete other end of the building. I might go in there once a week to get a soda because they have a better soda machine. But I don't really spend much time with the sales team. So we monetize that way, and what really works well for us is because of the scale of our audience. I mean, our main page alone has almost 11 million fans. Brands want that audience, so they will pay the studios team to make them a video to get to our audience. And our audience is very savvy. They know when an ad is and when they're watching, when they're not. We also label it sponsored, so it's very clear. But they are happy to pay whatever they want to pay, so that keeps me having money to hire folks, and I'm happy with that. And I can bring in more journalists. But we are all on the Premiere platform. So we use Adobe Premiere to edit the videos, and we use After Effects from time to time, Final Cut, or Photoshop, things like that. But I find that, honestly, if you know how to edit on one platform, they all work the same. I learned how to edit on Final Cut. I was thrown into Avid by trial by fire. Literally, someone was terminated, and they needed to replace her the next day. So I got hired out of my internship while I was in grad school and was thrown into an edit bay at NBC. And hey, crash this piece. We need it tonight. And I was like, oh, sure, okay. And Premiere works the same way, so they all kind of have the same shortcuts. The advice I would give for someone looking to get into the social video space, it's honestly it's the same advice I would give if you're going anywhere else. You just have to know how to tell good stories. And I'm a person that believes it doesn't matter if it's a video story or a print story or whatever. A story is a story, and if you go with whatever is the best medium that story lends itself to. Obviously, we only do video, so all my stories now are video focused. But if you have the people skills to do man on the street reporting, if you can spend time doing deep dive through data and like the mundane bits of fact checking your work and things like that, you'll be fine. Knowing how to edit is important. Obviously, you can't come in not knowing how to cut a video. That's like kind of a fundamental thing for us, but. Other than that, it's, do you have a healthy news diet? Do you know the difference between a real video and a fake one on Facebook and what's real news and what's not? And do you want to be a journalist? I mean, that's sort of the middle of the road. I've talked to some folks and they think, oh, well, what you guys do is not journalism. I say, well, I actually disagree with that because it may not be the journalism that they're used to because it's not in the New York Times or it's not in their local paper or their local station, but we are bringing the news to an audience in a way that is most beneficial to them. And I don't think people are going to be tuning in to the 6 o'clock evening news in 30 years. I don't know if it's going to even be at 6 o'clock anymore. It may be just an all-day thing. It could be 24 hours around the clock. I mean, who knows? But we have this opportunity as social media becomes more and more prominent to bring the news to an audience that wants it there because it's convenient for them. So that's my advice, just to be able to have good basic reporting skills and know how to edit.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
Hi. So I just had a question. Since you guys are on Facebook and Twitter, then what are your strategies for comments that are coming through on videos? Is somebody paying attention to them? Are you using that for feedback for?
It's a healthy mix. So I tell all my producers, and this is something I was told when I used to write at Al Jazeera. I used to write long articles. It's don't read the comments because people are not always going to actually have legitimate things to say. I say, well, look, you guys read your comments if you want. If there are people that are just being obviously critical for no reason, just ignore those because they're not legitimate comments. But we do read their comments, and I will sit down at the end of the week and I'll kind of go through the inbox, which is full of just a bunch of nonsense. But also there's hey, good story pitches, or I appreciate that you did this story, or I really like what you did here, or I didn't like this because. So we do read them, and we're not going to reply to them because we get literally millions a day, but we will go through them and take a look every once in a while, but I don't put a ton of emphasis on them. I guess it kind of depends on what your current social strategy is, and I even hate the term social strategies. Putting news on social media, it has to feel native and organic to that platform. And I used to have to almost shake people to make them understand this out of the CBS. You can't just take a segment from the evening news and put it on Facebook and be like, oh, we digitized the news. That doesn't work. People don't want that. The audience that is going to tune in for the evening news is not the same audience that's going to watch you on Facebook. It's not the same audience that's going to read you online. Each audience is different. I wouldn't. You wouldn't put a video on the front page of the New York Times when someone's looking for a long article, for example, right? So you want your content to feel like it belongs in that space. So I think a good way that TV stations, for example, can do it is rather than just taking segments and putting them online, maybe you've got footage you didn't use for that package. Instead of using it for 30 seconds, you have no time limit online. You can do it as long as you want, and you can do a deep dive with someone if it's a good profile piece. Print organizations, I see a lot of them do this really well. All your reporters should be going out with a camera. Every story, as a print reporter, I was a trained print reporter, you're trained to describe the environment to people so they can physically put themselves in that space. Well, every phone has a camera on it now. Why not only tell them what it looks like, why not just show them? And having that visual effect also adds another dynamic to your story. Having good audio, like Talia said earlier, is another great way to do it. If people can hear something for themselves, that's another way. We do sometimes just audio clips on Twitter just to see if that will work. Our Snapchat page is something that's totally different. Our Snapchat team customizes 2 hand-drawn issues a day. They'll pick 5 to 10 stories, and they will spend hours every single day customizing the morning edition and the evening edition. And then once it's gone, it's gone. They spend all this time on this hard work, and then people see it and it goes away. But that works really well for the Snapchat audience because that's what they want. And it's the same. It can be the exact same story that we did on the Facebook main page. It can be the same story that we posted about on Twitter, but we've just done it in a different way at each platform. So I would just say, look at your data, figure out what works for your particular platform, and start tailoring the content to that platform as opposed to just copying it from the main page and sharing it that way. Any more questions? I think I'm out of time. Last one. Our growth, people don't believe me when I tell them this. So I have only been at NowThis a year. When I started last June, we were at a little over 700 million views a month. We're now at 2.4 billion, and it just continues to rack up. And the company's only been around for a couple of years. They started off with, like a couple million a month, 20 million, and it's just continuing to grow. And I think that just is more evidence of our strategy being a wise one, that we want our news on Facebook to feel like it is organic to the platform. It's all the platforms together. We do have some months that are like lower than other months, but that's like across the industry. If we have a bad month, everyone has a bad month, so I don't really worry about it. Like I don't stress about the numbers so much, because to me it's not as important as the content. Like I said earlier, the numbers will do what they're going to do, but they're at a point now where like the viewership is so high that they're always going to be in the billions at this point. So I think eventually they will taper off. No one can sustain that kind of growth forever. That's just not reasonable. But I think we've hit a place now where we're in a good rhythm, and whether we grow more or just stay where we are, we will be able to keep reaching that same audience at that same volume. Okay, thank you guys so much.